to correspond to sort of what the button looks like up and what it looks like down. And they just sort of overlaid them. So what I can do is let me close Photoshop and go back to Thermo. And what I'll do is I'll create a new project. But this time, instead of just creating the blank one like I did when I imported the FXG, I'll just say create it from a Photoshop comp. And we'll go down here, and we'll pick that file. So what it does is it reads the file. It understands all of the layer information and that stuff. If I select this image, it gives me options that I can configure for how it will be imported. I'll just select all of the defaults and say, let me expand this a little bit. So this brings it into Thermo. And if we go to the Layers panel, you'll know all of that info has been retained. It's all been turned into MXML, though. But what I can do is I can start doing things like taking these two images for this, what's to become a button. And I can select them in the Layers panel and then just right-click and say, convert that to a button. And you'll notice that the Layers panel now, the two images go away and I now have a button. If I double-click on that button, you'll see that we've created a button. And what we have are the various states for the button. So it has an up state, an over state, a down state, and a disabled state. And what I can do is I can just come here and start saying, well, what do I want it to look like when you mouse over it? And so what I'll do is I will, for example, turn off the full color. And I'll do the same at the down version. I'll turn that off. And I will come here. I can also select properties for the we'll have it sort of shift down a little bit. And just by doing that, what I can do is exit out and run it, and you'll see it's compiling it. So we've got, this is again built on the Flex Builder code base, so the project format is the same. And what we've turned that into is a little button. So the core thing about that, though, which is really, sort of the subtlety, is that rather than creating a button and then skin it, we actually took the skin, the appearance of the button, just as artwork, and said, turn that into a button. And that reversal of the workflow is what enables so much more productivity, because you don't have to start by figuring out what are the components. You start by thinking, what does it look like, and then transforming that in place into an application. Now, I can also do things like I can draw. So we've got little drawing tools. I can take the polygon tool, for example, and I can just draw a little triangle, for example, and I can draw having some mouse problems here. A couple too many. Let me try and select this little one and get rid of him too. So I've got two little things. Maybe I want a little, like a scroll bar. But one of the other things, we talked about layout and the layout improvements. I might like my scroll bar, for example, to not be contiguous. I might want it to have the two arrows there, and then just a little single line for the track here. I might want to take an ellipse and draw like a little circle, and then just move that and say, this is my scroll bar. Now, unlike normal scroll bars, it's not, it's not one thing, right? It's sort of scattered all over the place. But what I can do is I can come here, select all of those things, and just say, sorry, having a little keyboard problems here. Select all of them and say, convert those to a horizontal scroll bar. As that converts into a single component, when I double click on it, you see it has all the pieces. And what I can then do is I can say convert each of the parts to the parts of a scroll bar. So the little round thing is going to be the thumb. And you'll notice when I do this that it turns it into, from a graphical object, into a button. Because each part of a scroll bar is actually a little button. So this is the track. And then this is the decrement button. And this is the increment button. And that okay, now we've got our 4 buttons. And so what I can do is actually then drill down into those. So I started with just a little triangle that I drew, but there are now buttons, so each of those has its own, up, down, over state. And I can, for example, select that little graphic and say, when I mouse over it, I want it to become red. And when I press down, maybe I want it to become sort of more of an orangey color. I can do the same thing for the other button. Oop. That was the up state. So go to white there, and when we go over, go to red, and down orange. I can do the same thing, something similar, make it a different color. Just when we scroll this thing, when it's selected, we'll make this, for example, blue. It's a little hard from this angle. So that's probably enough. But so now let's sort of escape out and run this thing. And we'll see that we have a fully functional scroll bar. Yep. So we had a little refactoring snafu. Let's see if we can figure out what. This might not work. Worked when I was rehearsing it. But what we would see is, did I have 2 increment? Well, actually, so there it is. We've got our little. So what we've done is, oh, maybe I did have 2 increments, so I can go up, but I can't go down. Well, you got the core point. I mean, it half works, or 3/4 works. The track's moving, the increment button. But so this gives you, sort of some of the core concepts with Thermo. If I could also go in and, do transitions and effects, but the core thing is it allows me to take art, form it into the components. I can then, because it's built on Flex Builder, I can take that same project and give it to a developer who goes in and modify, adds the source code to it, and they can work together. So in summary, we've got a lot of exciting new stuff. Flex, Flash, and Air are really powering a new revolution in rich experiences, whether it's in the browser, on the desktop, or on the mobile device. And we're doing a lot to make our technology more open, to work more with the community, such as we're doing with Degrafa. And we want you to take part. So, download the specs, start filing bugs when you see them, and let us know the features you want. And we've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up with Flash Player, Air, and Flex. And it's really going